my name is Jana. I'm from RK20 and the title for my project is Non-Contact Automated School Attendance System for Post-COVID-19 Implementation. Dr. Shazak is my supervisor and he was responsible to supervise me for my final year project. I proposed this project is because in the end of 2019, our world was shaken by the news of COVID-19 that given abbreviated name is by World Health Organization. They have specified the common symptom of being infected, which is people will get fever, dry cough, and tiredness. Moreover, the virus can spread by small liquid particles when they cough, and if infected people sneeze or touch surface such as table, doorknob, and handrail, other people may become infected by touching this contaminated surface. Then, touching their eyes, nose, mouth without having cleaned their hand first. It proven that virus is easily spread between people, mainly when an infected person is in close contact with another person. The most people that will be affected is teacher and student because they was interacted with each other in a small room. Hence, this system aims to prevent infected student to enter the school. Usually, teacher will take student attendance during the first period of class, but usually students in class have interacted with each other even before the first period of class. If one of them has been infected, they have high risk of spreading the virus to their classmates. If the teacher checked their health at first period of class, by then the virus was too late to be contained. So to prevent this, the student need to check their health before they enter to the school. The latest news from the education minister said that the attendance rate stood at 85% since the pandemic was exploded around the world. But since COVID-19 was decreased in 13 April 2020, the school was continued for students who take the exam only. For safety measure, the security guard responsible to control student movement, besides they have to stand and check each of student body temperature before student enter to the school. This process is very time consuming and there is interaction between student and guard. Hence, the objective of this project is to speed up the attendance system, record student attendance automatically, hassle-free, and contactless. The traditional attendance checking during teaching period is time consuming, which the teacher have to teach student name in attendance book record, then they have to manually load a student name from each classes into the system. During this process, human error can occur. Hence, by upgrading system to automated attendance system, it can simply teachers work. In conclusion, this project can reduce the risk of virus and spreading in school area, reduce the workload from teacher, and reduce human error. There are many problems to be solved. The first problem is probability the student that enter into the school do not in a good health. The second problem is the process of taking student attendance in school is very time consuming. The third problem is in this case the contact between staff will occur once the report is exposed to virus. The contact also will occur between student and staff. The objective for my project is to implement student health measurement system using IR thermofile sensor for health screening during entry. Second, to design a non-physical contact attendance system using RFID for school environment. The third, to develop a wireless database upload for attendance data to aid social distancing. This project focuses on non-contact school attendance system. The development for this project will be on hardware and software only. Both will be using the same database. The database will not keep the list of students from previous year. The database will record the attendance with data of student temperature. If the body temperature high, system can only alert people nearby, but system do not prevent students from entering the school. The RFID reader can only read when the tag is placed in range of our RFID reader. Meanwhile, the system can only read the ID number. This system can ensure whether the card is being used by owner or not. The system is target at administrator, teacher, student, or parent. The software then the software will be only use web-based application and inaccessibility if network is not available. The username and password of user will be assigned by administrator, and no account registration is needed. From previous project, the fingerprint has been used the same method that I'm going to use. It seems that this method approach can be used, but since COVID-19 was exploded, our Prime Minister advised to not make any contact with other persons. Hence, this fingerprint cannot be used. The QR code system also same method approach that I'm going to use. It's required web-based and mobile application to build the system. Since that the printed QR code will easily damage by surrounding if it implemented in school, so hence the RFID is proposed as it is not easily damaged. This QR code system will automatically generate student report, but for RFID in that table do not generate the report. Hence, this project I will propose to generate the report for students' attendance and notify student or parents once the student is absent more than 3 days in a month. The processing data for face recognition and fingerprint method will not 100% accurate due to biometric identifier. Both methods require more work to calibrate the geometric feature. Besides, physically the person will change and it will lead to false rejection. Hence, the RFID is proposed as the data that transmitted is 100% accurate. The management system processing is very time consuming, so the contact will occur if they do not mind the SOP. Hence, the RFID reader is proposed due to speed up the attendance. This project is proposed by adding the IR thermofile sensor to check and to ensure the student that enter to school in a good health, and also for parent view, for student attendance status once student enter the school. This is the design complexity. The user that targeted for this system is teacher, student, parent, and administrator. The administrator allowed to create and modify teachers, classes, and student details, and he allowed to view the student attendance report. Then the teacher allowed to view and update student attendance. The student allowed to view their own attendance system or their parent. All users allowed to log in the same web page. The web page will be interconnected with database in the system. Next, the IoT device will only for student which RFID reader to read the student unit ID. Then the IR thermofile sensor will be used to measure the student body temperature. Lastly, the IoT device communicate with database to store the data from RFID reader and temperature sensor. This project requires hardware, software, and programming language, which the hardware will be is Raspberry Pi Zero W as microcontroller, the RFID reader as an input to read the student ID, and non-contact IR thermofile sensor as input to read student body temperature. This module is low cost among all IR thermofile sensor. This sensor can detect 7 cm from human skin. The LED to display data and buzzer to warn. There are many software required such as Google Chrome as web browser, PHP to access database, WMP for web hosting, Notepad to text editor, Tony run Python code, and the language that required is HTML as front-end backbone, CSS to style, Java to make web page responsive update in real time, SQL for database manipulation and interaction, Python to use as back-end backbone. This block diagram consists of components that connected to microcontroller. The Raspberry Pi Zero W acts as a microcontroller, and the input for microcontroller for this project is RFID reader and IR thermofile sensor. Meanwhile, the output is LCD and buzzer act as a output component. This is the flowchart. Start by reading from RFID tag to RFID reader. IC card is used as student tag. Once student place tag to RFID reader, it will compare with database in the system. If card been detected, the LCD will display card ID and card ID will be compared with database. If card does not been verified, it will return again to start, which totally reject the card and not display student name. But if It verified the temperature sensor will read student temperature, and if the body temperature is high and equal to 37.5 Celsius, the LCD will display student is high fever and not allowed to enter the school. Also, the buzzer will beep long. Meanwhile, if the student body temperature is low and lower than 37.5, the LCD will display that the student allowed to enter the school. Last, student data will be inserted into the database and returned to read the RFID again. This use case is used to identify, classify, and organize system requirements. It is a set of possible sequence interaction between system and user. There are three users that have been in use case diagram, which is student parent, teacher, and administrator. All users will be logged into the same web page. Each of user will interact in this system. All of them able to log in, view administrator, and log out in the web-based application. The administrator was able to modify students, teacher, and class information. Meanwhile, the teacher able to update student attendance in case students have valid reason. The database design shows the first table is store teachers information, the second is store class information, the third table is store student information, the fourth table is storing the RFID information, the last is table of storing the student attendance. For teachers and student module, there are the table to store personal information respectively. For every classes, it will have two tables. One is to store the student in the class, and another table is to store attendance of the students. In conclusion, the problem statement and objective have been verified, which this attendance system can speed up the attendance taking. Hence, this method can be used for my project. My project has improved by adding the IR thermofile sensor to avoid unhealthy students from entering the school during the post-COVID. Thank you.